Trade Union Federation Cosatu is urging the ANC to address the behaviour of its members in the Northwest Province. Now, this follows the arrest of an ANC councillor on statutory rape and sexual intimidation charges. Just last week, videos were circulating on social media showing a 40-year-old man allegedly raping minor boys. So, to discuss this even further, I'm joined now by Cosatu's Provincial Secretary in the Northwest, Kopano Konopi, who joins me this morning. And thank you so much for your time, Kopano. I mean, I have to say that the video sent South Africa into a shockwave, but equally disappointing is that a very much active member of the ANC was alleged to have been, behind this. Your immediate reaction upon seeing the videos, but also seeing some of those allegations coming through about even the assault and rape of minor boys?
I think this is something that is very disgusting and it has to be condemned with serious, stronger ways that it deserved, and it's a undermining to the society, and really it's something that we cannot really condone, and we will try to plead for very, very harsher action from the ANC and also from the law enforcement officials, and we hope that the investigation will be very thorough, so that there are no any technicalities or loopholes that we'll find, and at an ultimate end the person becomes acquitted. And it is an embarrassment to the movement and the society in general.
This also brings into question the vetting system that goes into place when political parties such as the ANC actually employ someone, entrust them with leading, citizens, residents, and making them, key leaders in building the organization, but also interacting with community members. And I wonder if there are gaps now that we've identified, and what can be done to remedy this vetting process, do you think?
It is either there are gaps or there is a way that we find ourselves to go around the systems that have been put in place. We would understand that the ANC has got some policies, including the through the eye of the needle. The ANC put the guidelines through the Electoral Commission led by the former President Kgalema Motlanthe that was used to select the councillors. But we still find ourselves with these dodgy characters finding themselves through. So either we find ourselves that we go around and we bypass the system, or the system needs to be tightened and made a little bit tighter, so that we can no longer get these dodgy characters finding themselves being public representative. You would remember that in January there's one person who was arrested in the same village, in the same township, Kanana, who has been accused of murdering his wife. And on Monday, another person who's a former MP of the ANC was sentenced to 3 years for stock theft. Now we are finding ourselves with this one who's producing child pornography, molesting young boys and young girls in the community that he's staying in. So we think that these are the people who are not worthy to represent us as a society, who are not worthy to become a public representative at any level.
Yeah, and as you mentioned some of those criminal activities, I understand there was also another councillor-elect who was being sworn in Ditsobotla, arrested for stock theft. I mean, Kopano, are you not concerned as an alliance partner at the level of criminality that some of these political leaders are involved in, particularly in the Northwest Province? I mean, we're not just talking about, someone who stole sugar. We're talking about crime here that involves, death, that involves sexual assault, that involves stock theft. And these are political leaders in the Northwest, and you are the alliance partner. And I wonder at some point, where's the engagement as an alliance to say we cannot be partners, with a party that continues to have criminals or, such a criminal record as far as their involvement is concerned?
We are very concerned about this criminality that is happening, more especially when it involves the leaders of the party that we are in alliance with. That is why we are saying that we know that there are systems that are put in place. I mentioned that through the eye of the needle, the Rule 25 of the ANC Constitution calls for good conduct, calls for people who must behave properly. We know that the ANC used to be an organization which people look at it as a beacon of hope. The ANC deems itself as the leader of society, and we believe that it cannot become the leader of society if it continues to have these dodgy characters representing it at all levels. So we believe that it's either we are going around bypassing the system, and when we bypass the system, these dodgy characters find themselves inside the system. But if we could just stick to the system, to the core, and implement the policies of the ANC, implement the guidelines of the ANC to the core, I believe that we would not be able to find that. So we don't think that there's a problem on the organization itself, but there's a problem on people who are given the responsibility to run the organization and also to implement the policies of the organization, because they cut corners. And once you cut corners, you will find yourself with this kind of the situation that we are finding ourselves in now.
Yeah, and I mean, in turn, when those leaders conduct those criminal activities, you would agree with me, they do bring the organization under disrepute. Then, you know, the masses will say, it's ANC leaders, it's the ANC, when, as you're mentioning, it's certain people within the organization. So they definitely have to address this issue, so not to discredit the organization. But as you mentioned, something needs to be done. They need to address such individuals. What do you think needs to happen? Yes, over and above the rules and clauses and policies that need to be followed internally within the organization, but how can we effectively address such criminals within the organization, do you think, and leaders that are supposed to have, you know, a standing in society, but behind back doors they are part of criminal activity?
The first thing that I think should be done, we must strengthen our vetting system in the organization and make sure that it is much more tighter than it was before. That is the first thing. The second thing is that the people who have been elected to lead us as the society, who have been elected to lead the organization, must understand that they do not have a private life where they can go and do all these things, because in their private life, as you have said it correctly, whatever they do, they bring the organization into disrepute. And the one thing that they must understand is that you cannot want to become a good leader when you are in the structures of the organization, and when you go into your private life, you go and molest the society, you go and abuse young boys, you go and sexually harass young boys. So it is something that we must go and go back to basics, bring back morality into the organization, teach the people how to behave better and how to behave correctly. And the last thing that we must do is adherence to the core in terms of the policies and the principles of the organization, and not find ourselves trying to cut corners because we want to do favors to friends, we want to do favors to families so that they can get deployed. Just adherence to the core and bring back morality into the organization.
Well, I appreciate you speaking to me about this. Cosatu Provincial Secretary in the Northwest, Kopano Konopi, thank you so much for adding your voice to this conversation.